Life Hacks Beyond Convention with Dee and Sonia.
I had a family member that was made to do an introductory course to computing, and this person was a gamer, so knew how to write code. And she had to do an introduction to computing at a TAFE in South Australia. And she went there and she knew probably more than the lecturers. So it was just like, oh, well, let's go through the things. I think it was supposed to last 6 months. In a day and a half, she'd completed everything she needed to do. The problem was there were a whole heap of people there from very low socioeconomic who had no computers, and some of them had no mobile phones. So they said, oh, yes, well, you've got to do this, 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 and this. They had no idea how to turn a computer on. So she ended up volunteering to help there, help the students. And then the semester break came and they said, oh, here's your homework, and gave everybody homework, and this is what you've got to do, but denied access to the computers during the break.
Oh.
So if you've got no phone and you've got no computer and you don't know how to do stuff, how are you supposed to do your homework if...
I would have thought that wasn't... I would have thought that was against the government contracts, because they would require, like the governments would require the organisations. Though I guess, no, because the place that I was working for was in a really small town as well.
Yeah, this is one of
the offices weren't open, then you didn't have access because there's nobody there in the office. Yes. And of course, and
your staff aren't going to work during the break if they work for TAFE or anything else. So she actually had one of the guys come around and she coached him at home. He would come and visit her at her home, and she'd run it through. But it was self-defeating.
That would be against organisational policy too.
Because have a student help.
Well, not the help, but that it's at her home. Like that would be a occupational health and safety risk.
Well, I guess it's homework, so it's personal time. So if you choose to go to someone's house to do your homework together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So as in a capacity as a volunteer.
No. She was just, she wasn't official anything. She was just helping.
Oh, just another student. Oh, yeah, that's different.
Yeah. And so
together,
how self-defeating, just assuming everybody has a computer. And I know I've made the mistake assuming that people have larger computers or printers, and I've got to pull that back and realise that that's not the case. But assuming people that are in their, say, 50s and 60s have a computer and know how to use one or anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're sort of leaving a lot of the older generation behind. I don't know if they get penalised when they don't complete their course, or whether they just have to attend and tick a box, which also defeats the purpose.
Because the regulations, the environment changes all the time, doesn't it? So and because I wasn't in that side of it as well, I didn't really know all the ins and outs. I knew what I had to do for my roles. But what I found interesting, because as a teacher, part of my role is to ensure that the right student's in the right course, etc. So, you're talking about this person who does not need computer skills. What a waste of government money that is. And it's totally inappropriate as a teacher that you would even enroll her in that course.
Completely. Yeah.
And that was why I ended up leaving. I couldn't, I just, my values were different to the organisational processes. I'm not going to say to other people's values, it was an organisational process thing, and even a government process thing. I just look and think, I couldn't keep enrolling students into courses that they didn't need or want.
Yes, that's
it's supposed to be about upskilling them and helping them to get meaningful work. And so, it's an industry all of its own.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is it's kind of run on a grants system. I don't know how it's funded properly, but people have to companies have to win the rights to get the employment listings.
Well,
So
at one point while I was working for the organisation I was working for, yeah, we actually went through that. So it was like, well, we're right in the middle of, I don't know whether they called it, of applying for the contract or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the words were now. But yeah, we had to go through that process and we didn't know, like, because the truth is, if you don't get the funding for the next however many years it is, I don't know whether it's 2 years or 4 years, I'm not sure what the thing is, but and then what a waste of money if a different organisation actually gets it. So you've got all of these people that were working there now don't have jobs.
Yes.
and now all of their processes are redundant. And so new organisations coming in needing a different amount of money to set up their own processes, and you just think.
And then you've got to notify all your clients of,
well,
no, you're not going to that office anymore.
Yeah, they've all got to be transferred to the appropriate organisations. Yeah, I know. It's interesting, the whole thing. So that's where I look at even NDIS and all of those different government, that Aboriginal, there's different organisations for Aboriginal assistance. And so we've got all of these government organisations that are contracted out to private entities. And it's just, I don't know, so much money that's spent on just the environment.
Yes. And people, once they've got the contract, they're fighting to keep it because it's putting food on their table. So they want to tick boxes. They don't necessarily, especially if it's a lower level, like if your contract's lower than the last lot. I mean.
Well, that's it. How many subcontractors are there to the organisation that's got the actual contract who then subcontracted out? And I don't know what the laws are around any of that.
Yeah.
But that's like in the cleaning industry when I used to have a cleaning business. There's actually only a few cleaning organisations that have enough cash flow and capital to be able to apply for a lot of the big cleaning contracts, like your big what do you call them? Big shopping centres or big government contracts, etc. And often those contracts have to be for, I don't know, a minimum number of sites.
Yes.
And so it's only the really big players that can have got enough money to be able to do that. And then but then who are the people that are actually managing each site? Well, they're usually subcontractors. And then those subcontractors are usually employing staff. So you've got this whole tiered thing.
A hierarchy. Yes.
Yeah, a tiered thing of where the money's going. And so the people at the bottom, who are inevitably just the staff members, they're usually doing it pretty tough.
Yeah, they're doing it tough, but also they're the most at risk because you need one little shift up high and it's just a ripple effect down to knock people out. So
exactly.
Got to be resilient enough to be prepared to go and look for another position or find out who got the contract and who their subby is, and put your hand up there if you can. So well,
as a cleaning business owner, I chose not to be a subcontractor for any of those organisations. I actually got approached by one of the big ones, and but the negotiation process broke down because they weren't giving me enough money to pay my staff a proper minimum wage as well as work cover.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And their major concern was the quality of the clean that was happening with their current subcontractor.
Okay.
But the reason that there was problems with the quality was because they weren't paying enough to be able to pay a proper wage to staff members. So then you end up, which it's probably cracked down because that's a few years ago now. So, but then that means that you end up with staff who are paid under the lap, like illegally.
Oh,
They don't,
yes.
So
Yeah.
but they might get, I don't know, back then it was, $12 an hour, and the actual real rate was probably for my casual staff. I reckon that was back then was about $21 or $22 an hour.
Yeah.
It's gone up since then because
Yeah.
obviously we've had inflation, etc. But
Yeah.
they were a good. So a lot of these workers were working for $10 an hour under award rate.
Yeah.
And and of course, well, if you're only getting paid that amount as a worker, are you going to be doing your best job?
No.
You're just going to work.
You're going to do $12 of work in a $21 hour.
Exactly.
So
exactly. It's just, so anyway, I just walked away. It's just like, no, I'm not doing this. But it taught me a lot about what's really happening out there in the corporate world when it comes to something as mundane as having your premises cleaned.
Yes, yeah. And I think, or I hoped after COVID people would realise that cleaners are our most important people, but they haven't. Yeah, they don't recognise that this job is critical to the health of the nation.